Welcome back to This Week. I am pleased to be joined by the mayor of this great city, the Honorable Freddie O'Connell. Nice to see you, sir. Congratulations on your first term in office. You're a busy guy, 5 months into your term, and you've been everywhere. I see you at night, I see you at day. Do you sleep any at all?
I do. I will say it winds up being easier to have just one job, where for the past 8 years it was almost like having two full-time jobs. And so, I mean, we keep a busy, active schedule, but I get enough time in the office, I get enough time with family, and I do get enough time to sleep.
Nice DJ set New Year's Eve at Bicentennial Park Mall.
It was a lot of fun.
Hashtag my mayor's cooler than your mayor. That was excellent.
You know, I guess that's one thing about being Music City. It's a city that you do want to remember. It's like we've got all these opportunities to enjoy the city, so you don't want to lose sight of that.
As mayor, did you go in and 5 months in now, was there an aha moment? Was there, I didn't know that moment? Was there any surprises yet?
This is one of the most interesting things. So despite my many years working with mayors, starting with Mayor Dean kind of formally being on his board of directors for Nashville MTA, then being on the Metro Council for 8 years, and yeah, to your point, having some experience with City Hall, that first day arriving with security detail, I had no idea there was a little garage right off of James Robertson Parkway. So, but other than that, there haven't been a whole lot of surprises. I had the good fortune of working with multiple administrations, Mayor Dean, Mayor Barry, Mayor Briley, and Mayor Cooper, staff, all of those things. So we kind of had a rhythm.
How Nashville grows, how Nashville moves, how Nashville works, the underpinnings of your administration. And you got some good news this week on that in regards to your first capital spending plan. $514 million for neighborhoods, schools, construction of in regards to infrastructure. What will the money pay for?
So biggest item in it is schools. We're finishing 3 great new elementary schools at Percy Priest, Lakeview, and Paragon Mills. A lot of maintenance in there. A lot of maintenance also for parks and libraries. Heavy fleet, including snowplows, ambulances, tractors, specialty equipment that some of our departments have needed, from parks to fire, and just making sure the city keeps running. I mean, the way I look at it, Bob, is we kind of have these 2 budget processes. There's the capital process, that's how we buy things, and then there's the operating budget, which we'll be working on over the next several months, which is how we run the government for the year. So in this capital spending plan, it was focusing on all those things. We made some investments in transit. We made some investments in safer infrastructure, trying to continue to drive down the pedestrian deaths we've been seeing over the past few years. We made some investments in parks and libraries, and we made investments in neighborhoods all across Davids County.
To mention transit, the other big event that has taken place, the dedicated transit referendum now set for November. Still a lot of planning. You're still getting input from citizens and others in regards to what the plan will actually look like. The dedicated funding, there's going to be state money, there's going to be federal money, there'll be some metro money, and I guess we're not sure exactly what that will be. What will the voters actually be voting on in November?
So in November, we're taking advantage of provisions under the state's Improve Act from several years ago, which allows anywhere in the state to be able to go pursue dedicated funding for a transportation improvement program. There will be language that we will take to the Metro Council. If they agree that this is a priority, then they will, by this summer, ideally approve that final language, and then that will be what puts it on the ballot for voters.
Funding-wise, is everything kind of on the table? Are you looking at sales tax increase? You're looking at some kind of new funding formulas?
Improve Act gives you kind of this palette of options, and we've got a technical advisory committee that's kind of reviewing that finance and the technical details of what will, you kind of do this chicken and egg piece where you've got to get a plan, check the cost of all those elements, get it right-sized for the city. We've got a community advisory committee to make sure that this is generally going where we want it to, that it's putting, our focus fundamentally in this plan is sidewalk, signals, service, and safety. We want this to be something that benefits everybody all over the county. It's not just about better bus service, it's also about connecting you to neighborhoods that haven't always had connections. It is about improving life for motorists, where the ideal here is as we modernize our traffic grid, we wouldn't be stuck at a red light with no cars coming the other way, which is something I still hear about and I still experience as a daily frustration as a driver.
I remember talking with you during the campaign about the importance of what you stress in this plan of connectivity with the airport and downtown. And we also talked at the time that maybe this was an opportunity to introduce light rail in that connection with the airport. That's not part of this plan. Did something change? Why is that not feasible at this point?
A couple things to look at there. We want to make sure that this plan serves the city, serves Nashvillians effectively. What I'm sensitive to is I don't want to just have a train for tourists. If it serves Southeast, we want to make sure that maybe someday it could go all the way to Murfreesboro. We haven't hard ruled it out. It's just, I think coming into it, what my recommendation is, having just actually been up in Boston and flying into Logan Airport, you can walk right off an airplane down to the ground transportation level, hop on the Silver Line. It is a dedicated bus rapid transit system that gets you all the way to Harvard Square, and you can walk a half a block to where you're trying to get to, and it is not on rails.
It would be great to have that in Nashville.
Something like that could work just as well at our airport. I think the biggest thing is we do want to ensure that there is high capacity, good modern transit that connects the airport to the city. That part we will have.
Our conversation with Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell continues in a moment. We'll be right back. Welcome back to This Week and my conversation with Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell. We're talking about the mass transit aspect of the voters going to be voting on referendum in November. Is the East Bank at all involved with this in regards to any kind of rapid bus system, connectivity with the airport? Is there a spot for a terminal, a drop-off spot, something on the East Bank?
Absolutely. So the best part was coming into office with WeGo, which runs our transit in the city, and then our local Department of Transportation, NDOT. They were both moving together with alignment about transportation, transit, and infrastructure already. We kind of took what they had already worked on. NDOT's in the closing stages of a project called Connect Downtown that's been looking at addressing congestion, addressing parking, addressing how people are moving safely in downtown Nashville. So Connect Downtown is one step. It anticipates, with WeGo's involvement, an East Bank Community Transit Center that would make it much easier to get to events at a new Titan Stadium, whether it's a football game or a concert.
That whole East Bank in 5 years is going to be unrecognizable. Where's the city's part of that project? How is that unfolding? The old stadium site will be built by the city.
Some big news coming soon. In fact, in that capital spending plan, we put a little bite-sized investment in there to help with right-of-way acquisition, starting the infrastructure planning process on the East Bank. That'll be for 113 acres on the East Bank that Metro has public land. This will be for the first about 30 acres of that. And the whole point here is to try to build great new neighborhoods that locals not only can live in, but want to spend time in that area. The stadium will be a great entertainment destination, but the ideal is to have this be a place where people want to be.
You got some really good education news from the Education Recovery Scorecard, a nationwide study of academic recovery following the pandemic. Metro Nashville Public Schools ranked third among top 100 districts for math in 2022 and 2023, and sixth among 100 districts for reading growth year to year. What led to these impressive numbers? And those are impressive.
They're very impressive. This is a testament to Dr. Battle's leadership, the school board, I would say the school leaders and teachers and support staff who are out there doing a great job every day for our students. Bob, we're a Metro Schools family ourselves. We have watched, I mean, those moments during COVID were hard. Our older daughter really struggled with that whole concept of distance learning and trying to be in the classroom on a computer where that was where your teacher was. But the truth of the matter is, through the Promising Scholars program they've done in the summer, some of the investments, I mean, I will tell you, just looking at the new James Lawson High School, the students who completed their first academic year, the excitement on that campus and the excitement for people to go there, the new Goodlettsville Elementary, we also just opened this last year. I think people are seeing the impact of that as we just renovated Hillsborough High School. Having those great learning environments is, I think, increasing the capacity for students to learn. So we're excited to see that. Even better, that national news, even as there's this state conversation happening about accountability in education and funding in education. Metro Schools for 2 years in a row now has been at the top level of state performance with TVOS Level 5 school performance, and we're outperforming a lot of our peers around the state. That's exactly the kind of thing we hope to see, and that's why we're making investments, showing the returns, and being able to go back and demonstrate these investments have worked.
Let's talk a little bit about crime. Guns, the #1 cause of death among young people and children in Nashville, and continues to see teens bringing guns to school, teenagers using guns. Metro Police data shows the number of gunshot victims between 13 and 17 years old is up 75% compared to this time last year. It just seems like a very dangerous time out there, and I know the chief is working hard on this problem, but it just seems to continue.
We're working hard on it too. You may remember several years ago, in fact, just after I first got elected to Metro Council, we had started to see a spike then. Lonell Matthews was actually working in the Berry administration on this Youth Violence Summit program. There's still a lot of good work in there. We have just brought on Dr. Lawless Mitchell. Watisha Lawless Mitchell is in our administration as Director of Children and Youth Initiatives. She was previously executive principal at Napier Elementary in a context where gun violence went up.
Right.
We took a focused approach. John Bunton and the Cooper administration built this model called the Village that I was a partner to the whole time. And we did systematically manage to reduce gun violence in that one context. We have brought in great grant funding to try to interrupt violence before it occurs. We know that Metro Nashville Police is focused on this. Chief Drake talks all the time about his precision policing model. These things are having broader impact. We need to still bring back some of that work at the Youth Violence Summit. The good news is in 2023, those investments paid off across the board. We saw almost all categories of crime actually down year over year, including violent crime, but we do know we have a specific issue with the juvenile piece.
It's not all bad news. Nashville's juvenile court judge says overall juvenile crime is down in Nashville,
Correct.
which is a real gain.
Yep.
But more and more teens continue stealing cars. We see all this car theft going on, racing going on. And the sad thing is a lot of these car thefts, they're getting guns in these cars that lead to more crimes.
Well, this is in some ways a frustrating side effect of recent changes to state law that retreat from what is evidence-based policy. We have made it far easier not just to own and carry a weapon without any kind of permit or training, but then also to just leave it in your car unsecured. We see this too often. If you were to leave a firearm on the passenger seat of your vehicle and somebody were to steal that, there is effectively no responsibility, no obligation, no penalty. We have not been very effective at creating incentives for secure storage in vehicles. I know this is one of the things that the Covenant Families and Voices for a Safer Tennessee is looking at. We would certainly support more common sense approaches that allowed us at a local level to try to turn that tide, because that guns being stolen from vehicles is effectively an epidemic, and you can trace it directly to those changes in state law. We don't right now have a lot of tools for that. I will say MNPD has been great about encouraging this, safe parking scenario. We continue to support that message. We do want people to be responsible if they're going to keep a firearm in their car, but it is a challenge.
There's so many good things going on in Nashville. Are you optimistic that the good will outweigh the bad, that these problems are going to get solved?
So I guess here's what I look at. I look at those big trends, and that's where our headlines. Crime was down year over year, 2023 to 2022. This is good news. Pedestrian deaths, again, in response to some of the investments we made there, down year over year. Homeless deaths, again, we're trying to make sure that these investments in our most challenging problems are keeping people safe, keeping people alive, and letting the entire city thrive. That's kind of the focus of that capital spending plan. It's going to be a focus of our public investment strategy this entire year. But yeah, right now I'm optimistic.
Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell, appreciate your time and your insights.
Great to be with you.
Stay with us. This week continues in a moment. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. Thank you for spending part of your time on your weekend with us this week. I want to thank the Mayor of Nashville, Freddie O'Connell, for giving us his time. He's a very busy man. That will do it for another edition of This Week. I want to thank you for joining us this week. I hope to see you back here next weekend for another edition of This Week. Between now and then, enjoy yourself, stay safe, and we'll see you back here next weekend.